Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Untapped Virtual Happy Hour. I'm your humble host, Greg Avola, founder of Untappd. We're super excited you're here today with us. We got a great show today. Sounds like a TV show, but you get the idea. First, I wanted to talk about this show is brought to you by Minibar. We are partnering with Minibar to provide support for your beer delivery. So with Minibar, you can get a beer delivered directly to your house. You can enjoy right from home, being safe. Use the promo code Untappd to get your first $10 off your first order at Minibar. So we appreciate Minibar for their support, and you get your beer nice and safe. So with that, I wanted to introduce some of our panelists today, and that is important because we have to. So first up, we have Britt Burke, who is our events manager on Untappd. Say hello, Britt.
How's it going, guys?
And the man of the hour, the one that we're all here to see, we have Danny Connors from Rogue. Danny, thank you so much for joining us today, all the way from the Pacific Northwest. Thanks for being part of the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited you guys are here. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the beer that we're drinking today, but more importantly, we have to drink and open up our beer. So if you have a beer with you right now, open it up and let's crack open that beer, and we'll talk about what we're drinking and all that good stuff. Now, remember, if you're checking in on Untappd, make sure you check in at the Untappd at Home venue per se, and use the hashtag Untapped Happy Hour, and use it on Instagram and your stories and everything else. And we'll try to share those content on our networks as well. So we're really excited. I didn't do the best job of pouring my beer today, but we'll start with myself here. I'm drinking a Power People by Kent Falls Brewing Company out of Connecticut. This is the can right here. Super awesome. Love the kind of design of the Statue of Liberty there. This is a Helles Lager, very crisp, easy drinking beer. Great on a long day or whatever day it is, for lack of a better word. So, Britt, what are you drinking on your side?
Yeah, so I've got a beer that's actually a collaboration between Lamplighter and Cambridge Brewing Company, two really awesome Boston area Cambridge area breweries. It is an oat lager that they actually used a sourdough starter on. It's 4.1%. It is, I tried it first last night. It is super crisp. It is super clean, and there's this really nice, just tart finish to it. So it's nice. Super refreshing.
Always love collaboration beers. It's really great when the two breweries come together to make something great. Danny, I think we all know what you're drinking based on your picture there, but why don't you tell us about what the beer you have in front of you?
Yeah, so this is our Côte de Rogue. It's a sour blonde we have coming out just now. So we're pretty proud of it and trying to get the word out on it. And yeah, I'm loving it.
Nice. Very cool. So, remember when you're checking in your beer, make sure you tag Untappd at Home as the location, because we got a little bit of a surprise for you guys. We are actually launching the Untappd at Home badge today. So we're super excited about all the fun stuff around there. You'll be able to check in and earn a specific badge for drinking at home. Obviously, we want to promote drinking at home because it's the safest thing to do in this time. But you also get a badge for doing it. So that's obviously fun. So again, you make sure you check in and tag your location there, and you'll be able to earn that. This week, we actually had something really cool on our Untappd social accounts. We did something called a Wayback Wednesday, where we were able to kind of share, and we asked you guys to talk about some of the cool beer photos you've taken over the years on Untappd. I want to showcase my favorite one that I took on the screen. This is one I took on Thanksgiving last year of one of my favorite breweries, Treehouse Brewing Company, up in Massachusetts area of their King Julius. So I captured it from the sun. This is very photography centric here with the bokeh in the background. It's amazing. But it was, it's a great beer itself. So if you haven't had a chance to kind of join the conversation, make sure you're using the hashtag Wayback Wednesday and reply to the Untappd tweet. We'd love to see some of the cool ones that you're working on. What about you, Britt? Is there anything you've taken recently that you kind of reminds you off the top of your head that you're like, oh man, that's a great picture that I took?
Recently, no, but a couple visits to Vermont ago, I went up to the Trapp Family Lodge and Brewery and got a fantastic photo of my beer. There were hops all outside looking over the, Sound of Music mountains out there. And I was like, well, this is art. I'm going to call this art.
I love, I think that one of the cool things about the beer industry is that people are being really amazing when it comes to taking pictures of their beer. I mean, honestly, when Untappd first started, we didn't have a photo adding feature to it. And people are like, why would you add a photo adding feature to a beer app? It's like, well, I think it's more of an artistic thing. You can express yourself, where you're drinking it, all that cool stuff. So it's a great way to kind of show off some of your talent. We've seen some great photos already come through the Twitter stream of people saying that they took photos on boats overlooking big mountains and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see the community come together with that. So keep making sure you reply to that Twitter or Facebook post, and we'd love to see some of the stuff that you posted out there on that. So. All right. So, Danny, now you are the star of the show, and I'm just going to not talk anymore because you're probably tired of hearing my voice. But tell us a little bit about the innovation you have been doing over there at Rogue. Obviously, as a huge fan of your brewery, we know you most for your IPAs and some of your Kolsch's and lagers. But this is a new avenue for you guys in terms of the Coast to Rogue. Can you talk a little bit about how this started and the process of how you make that beer?
Yeah. So this one started down in Newport at the main facility. We've been brewing beers for over 30 years now, but only just now really throwing our hat into the ring of the sour mixed fermentation stuff. We had a few barrels just kind of lying around, miscellaneous things, nothing that had any plans for larger production, but we found some things that had just been sitting around, and they just had picked up some wild yeast on their own out there and had got a little funky, got a little sour, and had some really pleasant flavor and aroma to them. So we took that and started running with it a little bit. We inoculated some other barrels with just little hodgepodge of individual Brett strains and some lactose strains and things that we were interested in. And then from there, just picked out what was tasting and smelling good, use that to mix in and get a culture going to start one of our fooders that we had lying around, and put a blonde base in there and just let it sit and see what happened. And well over a year later, we were real pleased with the results, and we kind of started moving forward with a plan to actually package something and put something out there, and finally offer one of these fancy sour mixed fermentation beers.
It's all the rage nowadays, these sours. I'm going to make a strong a bad thing about myself here. I'm just not a huge sour fan myself, which I know make people cringe when they think about that. I just haven't really got into it. I'm not a huge wine person or more of a candy style, so the sour puckerness is not something I have all the time. But you mentioned about the fooder that I think a lot of people hear that term in the brewing industry. Can you talk us a little bit about what that is, how you guys made your own and stuff like that?
Yeah, so a fooder is basically just a giant barrel that gets turned. It's up on its side if you're looking at it. It's really useful in the world of wood aging and sour beers and things like that, so that you're not having to handle hundreds of individual barrels. You could just have the same volume, in this one large vessel. These ones, I believe, were originally in the wine industry. They're actually French made, but they've made their way to us. They've been in a couple people's hands, but we had a line of beers that were not soured beers that we were just barrel aging in fooders for fun. Things like
for fun. I love that term, for fun.
Yeah, that's the craft beer industry, man. Like, why the hell not? Let's just do it. We'll probably make money off it. But we had done a line of just call it the Big Ass Barrel series, and that's where some of our first fooders came from. And we kind of said, well, might as well just sour them. We're not using them for these barley wines or these stouts anymore. And then we've kind of moved on, and I got in these other new fooders at my facility. But yeah, it's pretty exciting to get moving forward with that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think most breweries, they start out as a smaller brewer and they work their way into sour. It's interesting to see how Rogue, being such a well-established brewery over the years, is now just starting to kind of get into that space. What made you guys make a decision to kind of go into the sour avenue after being so heavily focused on the other areas of the styles?
I think it was just a little serendipitous that we found these barrels and they tasted good. It's something we've
simple, right?
Yeah. But it's something we've obviously eyeballed for a while. All the brewers, there are plenty of beer nerdy people who are interested in these styles. But for us, because there's maybe a little bit more pressure, we've been around for a while. We're a well-known brewery. It's not something we really wanted to dip our toe in. We wanted to get it right for sure the first time around. So right. This, I think, is a product that we're all super proud of. We're all really excited about it. So very happy to enter the ring with such a strong initial effort.
Awesome. It's really, really cool. Obviously you're looking at that bottle that you have in front of you right now. That looks like a very fancy bottle. Why is it limited edition? Is there a reason that you plan to do this more often, or is it just a first dive into the kind of sour realm?
Yeah, just sort of the first dive. We just didn't make that much of it, but we're certainly going to make more. So this initial batch was in our facility in Newport, but I am located in Portland. I have a little brew pub up here that we've moved a lot of barrels, and we've moved 3 fooders into that space as well. I had a lot of extra kind of underutilized space, so we're kind of trying to move everything up into my realm, and I have 2 of those fooders filled. I'm definitely going to be trying to make more of this stuff because it's delicious. And then I'm actually brewing tomorrow, brewing more of the base to fill the third. So
Nice.
we do plan to expand this line and have some more offerings in the mixed sour world.
Nice. Well, I think obviously, if people out there that are huge sour fans, their probably mouth is watering at the opportunity to try this. So, what is the release schedule for you guys for this beer, and where can they find it? I know it's tough with everything going on today, but what can they find that particular beer if they want to try it?
Yeah, so it should be finding its way out there. If people are in Oregon, they can order it online through our website, for deliveries to them. And then it is a limited offering, so we distribute all over the country.
Right.
Most likely, you're going to find it at your bottle shop, beer nerdy places that are going to have these rare releases. So yeah, the best thing you can do if you're not in Oregon is probably bug your bottle shop and see what they got.
Sounds good to me.
Hopefully they're still selling for pickup or doing deliveries or something.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned about new sours you're going into. Now, is this a new sour facility you guys are building in your area, or is this something that you're kind of segmenting out? What's the long-term plan? Are you thinking about opening a regular brewery? There's a lot of breweries across the country now that are kind of segmenting themselves. I can think of one off the top of my head, Jack Abbey's in Framingham has their own kind of barrel house sour area over there. Is there like a plan for that for Rogue, or everything's going to be under the one Rogue Ales kind of domain?
It'll be all Rogue. Definitely the facility is a little bit isolated. I have a space here. I had a pre-existing 15-barrel brew house here, so I'm making wort and everything. That's not an issue. I'm still going to be making my other part of my job is doing innovation for us. So I'm brewing 1-barrel batches of the hazy IPAs and pale ales and things that we have coming down the chute. We're all it's all going to be in one facility here, so just kind of fingers crossed the whole damn place doesn't become super infected, but if that happens here, it's not as big of a catastrophe as it would be in our large production brewery in Newport. So a little bit of a hedge bet there, but we're looking to get more aggressive with it, and we are looking to have bottle releases, but also just keeping continuous smaller releases on tap at our pubs going forward as well.
Very cool. Well, I'm super excited. My wife's a huge sour fan. We're gonna have to try this out. Maybe I can never buy a full one myself because I'm not a huge sour fan, but she'll destroy this one. Let's have a little bit of sips from this. So hopefully I get my hands on some of this as well. I want to turn it over to the community as well. While we're talking here, make sure to ask some of your questions you have for Danny or myself or Britt in the chat. I will be answering them at the end of the show, but wanted to let you guys know to continue to add some comments and questions in there. Ultimately, we talk about sours, IPAs, all your favorites. What are some of the beers you have on your wish list, Britt, that you definitely want to be trying recently? Whether it's obviously Coast the Rogue is going to be on there as well, but what are some other things out there that you're interested in trying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am super fortunate to be based in New England. So I'm surrounded by good beer. I know that Notch Brewing up in Salem just released their 10th anniversary lager, which is like a really authentic Czech style lager that I'm hoping to make it up there to pick up a 4-pack or a more pack of that, because it just sounds incredible. And those guys they're crushing it.
Very cool. Danny, what's some of the inspiration you guys have for making sours? Obviously getting into the area, not being a newcomer to sours, but from a brewery perspective, did you guys look to any other breweries around the area for inspiration on some of the stuff they've been doing and how you wanted to kind of set up your stuff?
Yeah. My facility here in Portland, I would imagine that this is the most dense brewery most densely populated with breweries in the world, I would say pretty confidently. I'm right across the street from Cascade's Barrel House.
Oh yeah.
Hair of the Dog is walking distance. Wayfinder's walking distance. Modern Times has their brewery just 2 blocks down from me. So there's definitely a lot going on here. Our brewmaster Joel Shields has done some deep dives on barrel aging, things like that. I know that he's gone out to New Belgium and they've showed him around with what they're doing there. I'm part of why I'm so proud of this product is I think it has a good balance to it. It's not it's not like a brutal over the top sourness.
Right.
Like I mentioned, we're right across the street from Cascade, and their stuff it gets real big, and it can get real big and sour.
Yeah, I've been there a couple times and wanted to just try because when you go to Portland, you always hear about Cascade. That's the thing you hear about most ever. And I went there and I got a flight of their sour. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty big. I mean, so I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, my wife works there. I've drank a lot of Cascade in my day. You kind of have to have a tolerance to it. If I go there now, I need Tums for sure.
Yeah.
But I think ours is in a good in between space, and it's something that I think I would rather prefer what we're making now because it doesn't have that huge sourness. I think it's a little bit more, not necessarily sessionable, but just a little bit more approachable. And that's what I really like. I think I'm really proud that we found this kind of medium range for what the product is.
Yeah, we have a question, Danny, from one of our team here. They want to know what you're thinking to brew next in terms of this. Obviously, you have the Coast to Coast that you've been working on. Obviously, it could be a sour. What is next for your innovation line for thinking about the brewing side?
We're working for the non-sour stuff, continuing on with some more some IPAs and some hazy pale things in that realm. And then in the sour stuff, definitely we're going to have a Creek going forward. And then the third one, the beer that I'm looking to put in the fooder, it's probably going to be, well, actually, I'm not going to tell you what that one's going to be. But
why not, Danny? Come on, let the people know what they want to know here.
I don't know. The marketing people will probably get pissed at me. They want to do something.
Understand.
Yeah. But I'll tell you the one. It's going to be a Creek. So.
Very cool. Very cool. One of our comments here said that you guys made a bat squash, which is an older, recently a hazy beer that you guys made. I'm a huge fan. I'm from Massachusetts area, New England, very close to Treehouse. I guess the hazies are part of my life now. So that's just something that I live for. If I can't see through the beer, it tastes amazing. So, obviously you guys have done some hazy IPAs in your day. Dead Guy is one of my favorites from the original set there. How are you guys dealing with in terms of the haze craze? Is this something you guys buy into from a brewery perspective, or you just stick to what you guys want to focus on in terms of brewing it and making good quality products? What's your kind of stance on that?
Well, I think you would, you'd be a fool to not buy into the haze craze.
That's very true.
If you want to make money, no, but it's we're super proud of that product. We put a lot of work into it. Myself and our other innovation brewer, Michael King. I have like an emotional response to it because it was like probably the most frustrating thing to do. How many damn test batches we had until we finally came out with it. But I'm incredibly proud of that product. For something that gets distributed nationally, it has blown up for us. It's been a great selling product for us. And I would put it toe to toe with pretty much anything that's out there that's distributed nationally. Any of these hazy IPAs that are out there.
Very cool.
So yeah, we take it serious. We're moving more in that direction. You can't ignore what they are. They're tasty beers. There's no denying like huge fruity tropical flavors. It's pretty straightforward.
And I think it also introduces people that may not be a huge fan of the bitterness of IPAs into the fold. So that's a great way of putting people that are maybe not into craft beer. So that's a great entry product too. Why don't we turn off some of the questions from the chat? So make sure if you have a question for us, put it in the chat and our team will try to answer it for you. First one we got for Kevin King here. He wants to know if you ever see a Cascade Rogue collaboration in the future. Maybe something that your marketing team will allow you to say about this or something you're thinking about. What do you say?
Oh man. Well, I wonder, Kevin King, did I know that person? Cause feels like a planted question because that actually already happened when my daughter was born 11 months ago. So we had a collaboration between us and Cascade. Just went into draft in our pubs, but I brewed basically sort of like a brute Pilsner. And then I got some of their sour, just a little bit of their sour. I sat down with Kevin, their head guy, and did a lot of blending, and their stuff is pretty, like I said, pretty potent, and trying to blend in with a brute Pilsner the ratios were a little tenuous. So we blended it out, and it was, so it's kind of this brute sour. I hopped it really heavily with, I think it was Mandarina Bavaria. And then they had a little grapefruit zest in this sour, just kind of like a blonde base of theirs. And it was, pretty fantastic. I think it was a weird thing to explain to people what it was. It was just kind of me making the beer that I wanted to make, and everybody else could go kick rocks. But it was, I was really proud of it. So hopefully we can rehash that one at some point.
Well, if you're the one brewing it, I mean, you have a right to say that. So you're all good on that front. So
yeah.
Another question we have here from Tom Sawyer. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Danny, I have a Shakespeare Stout in bottle from, I think, 1996. Didn't plan it that way, but if I would open it today, how good do you think, or how bad do you think it would be? Or might it actually be good? What are your thoughts there, Danny?
Oh, man. I'm going to go ahead and say it's not going to be good. but I don't think you could not open it up and try it. Just
I'm curious right now. I mean, Tom, I think you should open it right now and tell us in the comments what you think, because I'm just curious. A beer from 96 today, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, I saved that bottle for sure. That's probably a cool bottle.
Another question we have here from Hunter. How much of your experimental ingredient list are you able to source from Rogue Farms?
Right now, the vast majority of that is our hops. We are producing a substantial amount with our hops. A lot of other things, it's kind of a weird balance, because we might say, hey, what can we grow? And we will maybe brew a test batch with that. Whatever it is, cucumbers, peppers that we have growing out there. And then scaling it is a little bit tough, because you'll have to all of a sudden, because we're a pretty decent sized brewery, once you're brewing 500 barrels worth of something, it's pretty hard to catch up with that growth.
You're right.
Maybe, in 2 or 3 years, when we get good at it, we grow a substantial amount of Marionberries out there is the other thing that we do a pretty good job of keeping up with. But for the most part, it's the hops and the Marionberries.
Awesome. Another question for you here, and Britt, you can join in too as well. What style of beer do you feel the hardest to perfect? From a taste, a look, a smell perspective. Danny, start with you. We're talking about a beer and brewing it, and then we can talk about drinking it from our side. But what do you think is the hardest style to kind of perfect?
I think it's any style, just depending on how deep of a dive you want to go on it and how particular you're at about it. I'm, if I was left to my own devices, we would just have 10 different types of pale lagers and pilsners on tap at our place. And, I think that's the boilerplate answer. Is people say, oh, pilsners are so hard, they're the hard one. And it's absolutely true. It requires the right balance, and you can't hide flaws. But we've gone down a lot of rabbit holes. I've brewed a stupid amount of hazy pale ales or hazy IPAs, and it's also equally hard to master and pack as much hop flavor and aroma into those things. So whatever you're doing, a wit beer, these sours are maybe a little bit different, because it's just, as far as I know, it's just alchemy. You're just kind of putting it in a barrel and praying a little bit. Like,
you heard it here first. Danny told you how to do your own sour beer correctly, and that's how.
Yeah, you just put it in a barrel and pray. But Pilsner. The answer is Pilsner.
There you go. Britt, what about you? From a drinking perspective, which one do you think is the easiest from a brewery to perfect from that beer?
For the easiest for a brewery to perfect?
Yes.
I think no beer is easy to perfect. I think, I think IPAs I'm going to take this from when I was homebrewing. When I didn't know what to do, I would add hops. And so like my IPAs were the easiest things, but when I was homebrewing, and, it's now my favorite style, but Pilsner was my white whale. Like I tried to build up my system to the point where I felt like I could even begin to tackle a Pilsner, and I just never got there because I was never confident enough in my temperature control to feel like I could go down that road. But I mean, it's my favorite style. And if I go to a brewery and I see that they have a Pilsner on tap, I'll try that first. And then it gives me a really good idea of what to expect from the rest of the beers.
Right. Interesting. From my perspective, I think that it's really difficult from a user side when they're drinking beers to try to figure out their taste profile, right? So for me, I know that sours are not really my thing, but I will still try them, try to identify what I like and what I don't like about them. But, I'll tell you, when you have an IPA and you start off with that, every other beer seems to not taste the same because your mouth is tainted so much from these things. When you're trying this stuff, it's hard for, you to kind of bounce back on that. But one thing that I wanted to point out here, Brett, you talked about home brewing. How did you get into that from your side of things, especially now from being at home? What are some tips maybe you've learned in the way from people to kind of dabble into home brewing? I'm sure, Danny, you did home brewing as well, so you can chime in as well. But Brett, what are some tips that you've kind of learned from that step?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest tip is brace yourself. Like once you start, you can't stop. And you will find yourself with half of your basement storage unit full of brewing equipment. But yeah, I mean, I got started because I loved beer and I thought, I think I could make this, which is also how I approach cooking. It's like I'll now like make my own pasta from scratch. And I was one of those people who jumped on the bread baking bandwagon. And,
oh, yes.
But yeah, home brewing, I would say, if I had one piece of advice, pick a beer that you love and then try to, learn as much as you can. The internet is an incredible tool, and try and make a beer that comes as close to that as you possibly can, so that then you have a good idea of what you did, how what you did affected what ends up in your glass. And yeah, have fun with it. And yeah.
I remember when I lived in New York, I tried home brewing. I lived in a small apartment. And my girlfriend, my wife at the time, told me to drop that habit because there wasn't even enough room for the both of us in there. Any tips from your side, Danny? Obviously, you've made it into your career in your industry. What are some things that you've learned in your home brewing process that maybe help somebody out there to get started with it?
I think the thing I would always tell home brewers is just to walk before you can run. I think a lot of people want to like brew mixed fermentation saison with rosemary and it's just make a pale ale that tastes decent, and then maybe from there move on to an IPA. Just like keep it simple and I understand 100% why people do that. And I did the same thing when I was starting out. You try and jump to the next crazy thing, but yeah, just keep it simple.
Very cool. Well, thank you all for all your questions here. I want to tell everyone, thank you for tuning in, obviously, for our 30-minute virtual happy hour. We try to make it pretty interesting around here in terms of our timing. But we also have some updates here for some future shows. Next Thursday, we're going to have a couple of the actors from the Brew Brothers series that just aired on Netflix on the show. They're going to be on here talking about the show and their learnings from the brew process. But this Saturday, we're going to have a Sessionable Saturday. We started that last week. We're going to have Tom, our VP of European Operations. Yes, folks, we have people over in Europe now. It's just growing as a global company from that perspective. We also have Mark Jensen, which is a master brewer at Grolsch, and Juan Perez, the brand manager there. So don't forget to subscribe at Untappd.tv for these events so you get alerts for when we're going live. Really appreciate all your support. So once again, next Thursday, 7 o'clock, we have the Brew Brothers people coming on board. And then Saturday, for Sessionable Saturdays, we'll have our team there, and that's at 2:30 p.m. So check out Untappd.tv to see all the new things there. I want to thank everyone for joining. Britt, Danny, thank you really much for being a part of this. We know it's a tough time that everyone's in right now, so we really appreciate you all coming together and chatting about this. Reminder to follow Rogue on Twitter and Instagram. Rogue Ales, one of our good accounts we like to follow. Also great photos of their brewery and everything else going on there. And once again, I want to thank our sponsor tonight, Minibar. In case you did not see earlier in the day, we are partnering with Minibar to offer a promotion for $10 off your first order on Minibar using the promo code Untappd. So really appreciate their support of this virtual happy hour. And for all of you guys out there for chiming in, make sure you stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.